So we're going to be looking at building a simple composition to give you some kind of idea of how layers work in Photoshop. So in a brand new Photoshop document, so a new file, we're going to make an Instagram post here. So I'm going to use web, and I'm going to set it to 1080 by 1080 pixels, and I'm going to set it to 150 pixels per inch just so that I get a good quality to work with in Photoshop, and create. So now I have my artboard. So the first thing I'm going to do is place an image. So you'll see that layers here, you cannot have a document with no layers. A document has to have at least one layer. So if you open an image, it will be a background layer. But if you create a new document and as an artboard, you'll see that you have an artboard, which is kind of like a group of layers. And you'll see that when I click on the artboard name, it gives me these little plus signs so I can add extra artboards here. I'm going to rename this artboard to Instagram advert, or Instagram post. It's not really an advert. All right, so inside that artboard, I'm going to place an image, and you can find these images in the link. So place embedded. I'm not going to place linked because that means there will be a relationship between the original image and this layer, which I don't want because that just means that I need to manage my files more carefully. So I'm just going to say place embedded, and I'm going to go to this working with layers file, and I'm going to place sky. You'll see that it comes in with a little cross through it, which is my indication that it is embedded, or at least that it's an image coming in and that I haven't accepted it yet. So I'm just going to scale it up. I'm going to hold down Alt, which scales from the center out until it fills my artboard, and press enter. So you can see I now have my first layer, which has come in as a smart object as indicated by this little icon here, which means that it's non-destructive. If I make whatever changes I make to this layer in terms of scaling, rotating, and that, it won't lose quality because it's a smart object. So I'm finished with that, and I really don't want to do much more with it. So I'm going to lock it. So click on the little lock. Then I'm going to place some palm trees. So this is not a video about selecting. There will be a separate video about selecting. So your selections have been done for you here, and the image is saved out as PNG so that the transparency is there. So File, Place Embedded, and Palms, and Place. So you'll see that this has already been selected and saved out with transparency. So I'm going to drag this layer, and I'm going to position it up against the side here. Notice the way it's snapping, and that's because I have under view here, I have snap on, which is good in most cases. All right, and as soon as I'm happy with that, I'm going to press enter, and you'll see I now have a new layer called palms. I'm going to duplicate that layer. So there's a number of ways you can do it. If I am on my move tool and I hold down Alt or Option and drag and release, it makes a duplicate, or I can simply select that layer and right click and choose duplicate layer, and I'll just call this palms 2. And then I'm going to drag it across to this side. I'm going to hold down Shift, which will keep it in line, and then I want to flip it over. So to flip it, I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal, and I'm going to just move it into position like that. All right, so my palm trees are done. I'm going to rename this palms layer to palms 1. And then I'm going to select both of those layers and press Control or Command G to group them. And I'm just going to call that group palms. Okay, I want to also make it look like there's a reflection on water here. So I'm going to take this sky layer and I'm going to duplicate it. So another way to duplicate is Control or Command J. And then I'm going to press Control or Command T to transform. And I'm just going to hold down Shift so that I break the aspect ratio. Otherwise, it's going to maintain that ratio. And I'm going to move that up, still holding Shift. I'm going to move that down. So I'm creating this kind of reflection. And let me just get it to a good place. Let's say about there. Okay, and then I'm going to press enter. I'm going to take the original sky layer, unlock it, Control T or Command T, and I'm going to hold down Shift and move that up so that I'm getting that kind of reflection. Okay, and I'm going to select Sky Copy and Sky and Control or Command G. And I'm just going to call that Sunset BG background. Okay, so next I want to add a moon to the sky. So File, Place Embedded, Moon. Okay, and then Alt to bring it down in size. I'm not holding Shift because I want to maintain the aspect ratio. It must be a sphere. And I'm going to put it in the sky here, and I want it to integrate a little bit better here. So there's a number of ways you can do this, and you're going to be learning these things as you cover Photoshop more. So here it's really just FYI. You can play around with these, but what I'm going to do is take that layer and I'm going to go down to the FX button and I'm going to choose blending options. And you'll see I have these current layer and underlying layer blend options. I'm going to go to underlying layer and I'm just going to drag until the moon starts to disappear. And then I'm going to hold down Alt and I'm going to separate out that so that I can then control in a softer way how it integrates with the background. I'm going to go with the whites as well. Okay, that's not working so well. Let me go to current layer. Okay, so for current layer, I'm taking it like that and then Alt to separate out that point so that I've got slightly better integration. Okay, and you can play around more with this. That's actually not such a great result. Okay. I also want to just brighten up the moon a little bit. So I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments, and Levels. And let's just take that mid-tone up a bit. And I'm going to go back to the blending mode here, double click, and I'm going to adjust this. Okay, so you can fiddle around with this for ages. I'm quite happy with that. I think it's still a bit big, so Control or Command T, Alt, just make it a bit smaller like that. All right, so that's okay. It's not a great result, but it just gives you an idea of how you can fiddle around with the settings to get exactly what you want, but it does take time. Let's add some text in now. So File, Place Embedded, Chill. Okay, so this is our text. I'm going to hold Alt and bring it down a little bit. And I'm going to put it on the horizon. Okay, and then I'm going to change the blending mode of that layer. So I'm going to go Normal, and I'm going to go down to Overlay. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to choose Color Dodge. So again, you experiment on a case-by-case basis. I'm also going to put the chill layer below the palms layer so that it's below the palm trees. I'm going to duplicate that layer, so Control or Command J, and I'm going to transform, Control or Command T, and then hold down Shift, and make this also a reflection. And I'm going to adjust the opacity of that layer down so that it's not as strong. Okay, so there's a little composition Instagram post using multiple images stacked into layers. This gives you an idea of how you can work with layers to create a composition. There's a lot more to layers, things like adjustment layers, layer masks, and so on. But if you get used to making sure that you manage your layers properly, name them meaningfully, group them when it makes sense to group them. So for example, this chill and chill copy, I can group those and call it text. So it's basically about managing your stuff and arranging your layers in a stacking order that gives you the composition you want. So give it a try, practice, maybe use these images to do something different and experiment, just to get used to how Photoshop layers work.